Hi, welcome everyone to the Art of Communicating Data show. I'm your host, Hannah, and I go live to record these interviews. Today, I am thrilled to have a guest joining us, Dr. Angelica Lo Duca. Dr. Lo Duca is not only a researcher at a prestigious university in Italy, she's also a leading voice in the world of data storytelling. She's the author of Data Storytelling with Altair and AI, and we'll be talking about another book coming up at the end of the show in about a month. But today we're going to be diving into how AI is reshaping the landscape of data storytelling and hopefully explore some exciting trends for 2025. So feel free to pop your questions or comments in the chat box and we can answer them on the show. Otherwise, let's get started and welcome Dr. Lo Duca.
Thank you, and hi to everybody. I'm really excited to be here today.
Really excited to have you, and especially talking about AI. We can start off by discussing how you think AI is going to be helping data storytellers, not only with conveying insights from the data, but also helping users and stakeholders towards, taking action from the data as well. How do you think AI can help with all of that?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say that there is a sort of fear around AI or around applying AI in data storytelling because there is the idea that AI should replace human creativity and should replace human in extracting insights and delivering story. I think that this is not the case because AI augments data storytelling and not replaces our role as data storytellers. And so the main point is that we can use AI as an assistant to improve and enhance our capabilities. And this is the key to read and to see AI in data storytelling. This is the main point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I remember in another interview I did with Brandy Beals, we were talking about how she uses AI in her work, and one of them was about using AI to help with creating personas, and it's especially helpful because I think as data practitioners, we are coming as from we're just one human. We have our own perspective, and sometimes we need that outsider perspective to remind us who are the people, who are the stakeholders we're presenting to, and to help us, as you said, like AI is going to be helping us and augmenting us. So how do you see AI enhancing the personalization of data stories for a specific audience, for these different people that we may be presenting to?
Yes, I think this is precisely the role of AI because you can see AI as a global source of knowledge,
Mm.
which contains almost all the human knowledge. And so you can use it to extract, for example, the characteristics of a specific audience.
Mm.
For example, if you are a person from Western countries and you need to talk um, to tell your data to people to belonging to another culture, you don't know that culture. And you can use AI to extract anecdotes, particular facts, or specific traditions that make your story closer to that audience. And you can adapt also the texts that you use in your data charts, for example, your visualization. You can use AI to adapt these charts, these texts to the specific audiences. And this is a very powerful tool, because in other cases, you should conduct your analysis on the web, you should study on books, but AI can replace you in this task, and you can speed up your activity. And this is the main role of I think. But this is not the only role that AI can play. It can also help you thinking. while you are building your stories, because when you want to tell a data driven story, you also need to think about the next steps to propose in your story. And AI can help you to define the next steps of your story. And this is very interesting because it opens a new idea to new ideas that you usually don't see. Yes, this is these two ways: next steps and the audience adaptation.
Yeah, you mentioned how, there's the audience adaptation work before this required a lot of time and research on our part, if people were even doing them at all. And now we can do that faster, or people who previously weren't even considering this, they're able to leverage AI to quickly get those. Be able to adapt their stories for these different audiences. And then you're talking about AI helping us with determining the next steps in the data story, these different possibilities that we may not have been able to come up with ourselves. In your book, you also discuss potential issues like biases in generative AI. How do you think data storytellers and data practitioners who are doing data storytelling, how should we approach the ethical considerations when AI tools might be introducing these biases or inaccuracies?
Yes, the main point is to use AI critically. You don't have to use all the produced content as it is.
Mm.
You should verify it, and you should use your mind to check facts. Because AI speeds up your tasks, your activity, but it's automatic, and so a human judgment is always required. Your final personal decision plays an important role because you have to personalize your story. You can't tell other stories or AI stories. You have to tell your stories and stories behind the data. And AI is a tool that augments your brain, but the brain remains yours, and the final decision is yours.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. I think we're all getting a little bit better in detecting some content that is made from AI, and usually the things that set off our BS radar is that it just sounds like garbage or doesn't make
Mhm.
sense, and that's where it's really important for humans to actually still be critical and be a part of the process, as you mentioned. And then, it's about augmenting and co-intelligence rather than replacing our human intelligence with
Yes.
AI.
Otherwise, the problem is that we have all flat things, all
Mhm.
flat stuffs generated by AI, but our creativity should play a decisive role. We have an augmented brain given by AI, and we should use it as our force, and not we don't have to depend on it. We should exploit it for our uses.
Yeah, you mentioned so many times about augmenting AI being augmenting us and our brain rather than replacing, and it's a really good reminder. I think even recently I used it. I do trainings often on O'Reilly, and I I try to create examples for the different industries or that I know my audience will be representing, and I'm not familiar with those industries. And ever since AI, I've been able to get these examples more easily. And then I still have to fact check them or review them just to make sure it's not garbage. But it's really sped up and augmented my
Yes,
preparation for these trainings and enhanced the experience of my audiences because I'm able to get these examples that are more relatable through the help of AI. Even I'm one person, I don't have experience in all these industries, but able to get that very easily from AI. I've seen that actually improve the quality of my presentation. But yeah, being very critical about it and but using it advantageously to help us
yes.
is such a great way to put it. Um, for 2025, what trends do you predict or you're seeing for AI and data storytelling? Are there any like specific advancements or tools that you think will make AI powered storytelling more accessible to a broader range of professionals? And just generally, what are you thinking and seeing?
Yes, actually, I'm a researcher, and so I study how to integrate AI and data storytelling. And I have crafted a new idea that I'm studying it. I'm writing a paper on this, and is about using AI to evaluate the quality of data stories,
Hmm.
because it's a very new trend in the market. I think that it's not spread still, it's not analyzed, but it could be a great idea to take a story and give it as input to AI and say and ask the AI to evaluate the quality of the story. Um, you could also go beyond and ask the AI to assume a role, a specific audience role, and ask it if it understands your story.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
could be a new trend, a new idea to investigate both in research and in the industry. In addition to this, you could investigate the adaptation, still continuing the investigation of the adaptation to the different type of audiences. But I think that this connection between AI and audience should be better investigated and could be a new trend in data storytelling and AI.
Mm. From your experience working on this project and also just working with AI in general, have you noticed any limitations with AI in understanding or being able to adapt to different audiences, or any limitations with its ability to data storytell?
Yes, at the moment I'm also investigating how to adapt data storytelling to people with disabilities, in particular with blindness. And this and AI at the moment mm, can't help in this. And so, because maybe there are not enough data, or it's not ready for these specific types of audiences. And so maybe AI works well for generic audiences, but it could be well investigated. Maybe it could have some limitations with a specific type of audiences, because simply because it doesn't have enough data to learn to understand this type of audience.
Mm.
And maybe in this case, you could train specific models for this type of audiences and check the results. Yes.
Mm. That's interesting. I haven't thought about checking for that, but that's interesting that you've looked into that and seen that this is where its weak spot is currently until it's trained on better data results for this. Yeah, that's interesting. And for data practitioners who are listening to us right now, like what new skills do you recommend that they develop this year to stay competitive given the advancements you're seeing in the field?
First of all, don't stop at data exploration, but go beyond and learn how to communicate data. But not you shouldn't communicate your simple exploration phase. You should extract an insight from your data and communicate it. And at the moment, AI, from my point of view, is not mature, it's not good at extracting insights,
Mm.
because it makes a lot of errors. I'm also doing a project on environmental data and to extract, to use, which uses AI to extract the insights, but it doesn't reach a good performance
Mm.
at the moment. However, for communication, instead, AI is perfect. And so you can use it. I recommend to play with AI and maybe to follow some courses about prompt engineering, how to write perfect prompts to obtain what you want from the AI. Because the
Mm.
problem is there is to learn how to write instructions, correct instruction to obtain the desired output.
Mm.
So focus on communication and focus on prompt engineering.
Got it. You mentioned about, you looking into AI's ability to explore and analyze the data. Were you using tools like generic AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude, or were they like specific for data analysis?
At the moment, I tried GPT-4 and its family, and also ChatGPT, which uses them, but the results are
Mm.
not good as the results generated for communication.
Mm. Got
Uh,
it. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I find that interesting because also I hear I get reached out by a lot of companies who are working on AI products, and many of them, when they're data related, they're often at the exploration and analysis side. I don't see that many for communication, but you're saying that it is more is doing better at communication, and that's an interesting observation. And probably something that we should all be wary about because we might be unintentionally or maybe intentionally replacing the exploration and analysis part. It's often maybe the part that is maybe more time consuming for some than communication. So that's interesting.
yeah.
I know in your book you talk about using tools like Altair and other AI. Like, are there any other AI power tools that you see emerging that you think will gain traction in the coming year and be helpful for data pros?
Yes, I think for especially specifically for data storytellers, the new promising tool is Sora, which is the
Hmm.
OpenAI Sora, which is the video
Yeah.
generation tool, um, because it could help to transform your data into powerful stories. And this in the sense that behind the data there are always people.
Hmm.
And so you can use these tools to tell the stories of these people. But in this case, you should be aware that the generated stories are fake.
Right. Yeah.
But it could be useful, for example, to generate representative stories about well-known topics for communication in journals, for example. I don't know. The topic is open, and who knows?
Mm. Yeah, I haven't explored using that tool before, but I've seen some of the results from it. Um, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how people are able to generate um, some examples of the human behind the data are using that, but being wary that this is not actual, this is like still fabricated. Yeah, this is interesting. You talked about using like this, data storytelling with video, and I know you're publishing a book in about a month. Can you tell us more about this book that's coming out?
Yes, this book is a complete new entry in the field because it explores how to use cinematographic and novels techniques in data storytelling. It can seem something very strange because data storytelling is anchored to data. You must communicate data. You should be very scientific. But indeed, you should note that behind data there are always people, and maybe this data represent a story of pain, stories of a story of maybe a bad sales of a product, maybe refer to a bad product which is bad perceived by the audience, by the client. And for this reason, you can always extract people and from data. And in particular, you can always extract a hero from data. And the hero usually is the protagonist of a story. And you can tell a story related to this protagonist. You can identify a sidekick, an antagonist, and a plot to tell to your audience. And I recommend this book, which the title is Become a Great Data Storyteller, because it's a very new way to tell stories using scientific techniques. It's not you don't build cinematographic stories of fiction. You build data-driven stories using cinematographic and video and narrative techniques. In particular, you will use the three act structure with the first act, the second act, and the third act of a story. I suggest you to to read because it's a new way to think about data storytelling.
Hmm. I know I've seen some folks talk about the different parts of storytelling in general, and the storytelling art, and then you being inspired by Hollywood and movies for storytelling. I think recently also I was just thinking about it the other day. TV shows, have they have cold opens. The beginning of the show, it doesn't start off with the credits or the intro music. A lot of TV shows start with a very cold open, a scene that takes you right in the middle of something that's happening in that show. And that's a way, I heard that this was a new technique that was developed to increase people to actually stay and watch that show if they were watching something else before this, and then
Yes,
this one starts. That way it engages them, it really hooks them and reels them into this different show that they may not have been familiar with, rather than starting with like the opening credits, or
yes.
in our world it'd be like starting off with housekeeping before we present, and that's not a engaging way to grab people's attention. So it got me thinking about that too, like how we can be inspired by things we watch, and entertainment.
Yes, and also the point is that many people say that data storytelling should follow the storytelling arc, but there isn't any resource that explains how to do this. They say, okay, organize your story into a beginning, a
Mm.
midpoint, and an end, but they don't say how to do it. And in the book, you will learn how to do it, you you can extract a hero from data. Which characteristics should
Mm.
have your hero? How to put near the hero a sidekick. Who is the sidekick of your story? Who is the antagonist in your story? Which problem the hero encounters? Which is the problem? Which is the solution? Will the hero reach their final objective, which is the hero's object of desire,
Mm-hmm.
with what the hero wants. And you will learn this in the book, and you will learn how to structure a hook, for example, for a generic audience, for a disinterested audience, because maybe you are talking to audience that are not interested in your topic. They write on the key on the PC and they don't listen to you. Can you capture their attention?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's been I'm challenging, more challenging, I imagine, especially now that people are doing more virtual work and virtual presentations, and there's a lot more distractions, as you mentioned, and people in front of computer screens, in their own homes or their offices, where there's other distractions we can't see compared to when we
Yes.
used to do more face-to-face presentations, and maybe the biggest distraction there was like someone getting on their phone or just daydreaming and looking at the window.
Yes, or simply the camera is turned off and
Oh
you
yeah.
can't you can't
Yeah.
see anything.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all these techniques are, I'm sure, going to be very helpful in helping data practitioners deliver engaging data stories, and I think also, as we mentioned, like ones that are adapted to different audiences, because as you mentioned, like identifying the main character, the sidekick, the problem that they solve. I imagine even that could change depending on the audience, right? Like the problem that we focus on for that particular data could vary depending on who we're presenting to and what that person would be concerned about. Um,
In this case, in my point of view, the problem, the hero and the problem, it's in general, all the story is extracted from data. And so it's not, you cannot change it because it should emerge from data. The way you communicate this changes based on your audience, but
mm,
the message is the same and it's anchored to the data. And for this reason, it's not fiction. It's
mm,
non-fiction and it's something scientific and related to data.
mm,
Uh, and it's always the same. You change the way you communicate, the channel, the hook you use. You can adapt, for example, the hook of the story to a specific audience, but you can't change the arc of the
mm,
story. If the hero reaches their object of desire or not, you can't change it. It's true, it's the reality. The reality is given by data. You can't change it.
mm. This has been really interesting. I'm excited to look into this once this book publishes. And we have a listener, Sanjeev, who's also mentioning that mentioned that it's a very interesting discussion. Thank you so much for joining us as we discuss this. If anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in as we wrap up this show. And thank you, Dr. Lo Duca, for sharing these insights with us today. You mentioned a lot during the interview about these different research that you extracted some of your insights from, and I know we couldn't get into them because you work on a lot of interesting things. But for those who are more who do want to get in touch with you, maybe to learn more about these different things you've explored or just to chat with you, where can folks reach you?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm open to any questions, to any contact, and I will be happy to share.
Awesome. So, for those who are listening to the podcast, I'll be sure to link Dr. Loduca's LinkedIn channel. Is that a good place for people to reach on LinkedIn, and maybe an email address if you prefer that instead? I'll be sure to link that in the show notes. And do you want to mention again one more time for those who did join recently about the new book that's coming out in a month?
Yes, the title is Become a Great Data Storyteller, Great Data Storyteller, published by Wiley, and it's about using cinematographic and movie and narrative techniques in data storytelling. You will extract characters, plots, and antagonists, heroes from data, and you will adapt them to a specific audience based on your needs.
Awesome. Is this for all data practitioners, or is this specific for people working in academia? Just any
No,
all.
for all.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. And thank you for those who joined. This will be published on the podcast as well later when the season 8 starts later in the spring. Thank you all for your time and have a great rest of your